Yes, Professor Falstich, thank you very much for the introduction. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to report on the Stadtreinigung Authority Hamburg. We're a public authority. The owner is the city of Hamburg, and we are responsible for waste collection, for winter services, for cleaning, for maintaining the green spaces, operating recycling depots, and operating recycling sites. 4,000 headcount, so we're rather a big institution and a fleet that's constantly growing. I could give you new figures every day, more than 1,100 vehicles at present. So we're the last link in the chain. We're the ones who are implementing what we've heard about. So when it comes to the fleet park, it's CO2 emissions of 16,000 tons annually that we generate still, unfortunately. And we want to bring this down. And in 2035, we want to be carbon neutral. And I will tell you about how we're planning to do this. I will tell you about the fleet park, the legal framework. I will also talk about the alternatives that we've identified for ourselves, our target, where we're at currently, and what the next steps are. This is a wonderful photograph. It's a bit older, but it reflects what the special feature of such a municipal operation is. It's not like a bus fleet. The local public transport has progressed a lot more. They've got 3 vehicle categories, and we have a very colorful mix of passenger cars, bigger cars, smaller commercial vehicles with different tasks. When the temperatures are very frosty and low, then this is very challenging indeed. So it's already an exciting and challenging topic, and with the alternative drives, it's not going to be less exciting. So let's start from very small to very large. We have working machines that can be used in 2-shift operation. And when it comes to our logistics vehicles, we also have to work in the city region and outside of the city region. These are the requirements, the parameters. So we have these different sizes, we have different energy requirements, we have multi-shift operations. When it comes to the sweeping machines, above all, we have clear differences in inner city and outlying district operation, and we have different waste fractions that have to be taken to different recycling sites, so that there are high technical requirements and requirements for the maintenance and repair. You all know the CVD that was adopted in Germany, the Clean Vehicles Directive. We have over targets defined until 2026, and it's very nice if you have this as a legal requirement, as opposed to the other requirements that we set ourselves. 15% from 2026 on. That's not going to be enough to be carbon neutral in our fleet. So it's a nice try, but other municipal companies will also have to muck in and do their part. And we have to look at what suitable technology there already is and how we can get this into the requirements. And it will have to be scaled up. And on the other hand, we have the target from 2025 on, when it comes to procurement, to have a complete transformation here. Now, this is the legal framework. So we've got the CO2 taxation. We still have tax exemption for emissions-free vehicles. That's a small contribution, but only a marginal one, if you will. The toll legislation is changing at the moment. I think the act is just going through the Federal Parliament, so it's going to be more expensive than the diesel-driven vehicles toll legislation. Then we had some restrictions for transit for some cars that were taken back. And we're very worried when it comes to Euro 7 vehicles in the diesel area. Are they going to work properly in municipal operation? There's a lot of after-treatment for emissions already, so we'll see about that. You've seen this already, or something similar. There were different surveys. One is from the Automobile Club in Germany, trustworthy organization. The order of magnitude is always more or less the same. So whether you have 80% or 82%, doesn't really matter, but that's a real driver. The waste incineration plants means that we generate a lot of emissions, and this goes to district heating, but also to electric energy supply. So we feed in a lot, and that's a lever for us to make us think about what we do with the kilowatt hours that we generate via the waste incineration plants. The operational plant is usually right beside the waste incineration plants, and these are things that drive us forward, asking us how far will we get. The most efficient technology is battery electric technology, but there are rather hostile winter circumstances. So this is what we're dealing with at present, determining what this is going to be. And there's possibly going to be an application for e-fuels. I'm thinking about winter services. So winter circumstances will go down. So this will also have consequences on operations in Hamburg. So if you have 2,500 kilometers for a winter service car, then this can also be powered with e-fuel possibly and get to carbon neutrality in this way. So we're concentrating on many different things and on the most efficient drives, which is the battery electric drive. So this is what technology looks like at the moment. Things have developed so much. DC is almost taken for granted. DC charging, it is available just as much as AC almost. Apart from the costs that DC charging still generate, it's not really easy to see what this is going to develop into. 300 kW is something that seems to become standard at the service stations if you want and need this. I don't think there are any products that are able to use this at all. But there's a lot of dynamism in this, and it's all standardized equipment. So it all works. It's all interoperable and compatible. What have we already done? We started off with the small vehicles because we are the users. We're not the manufacturers, such as engineers, but we are the users. We look at the market, we try things out, and we try to ensure that when it comes to the different tasks, we can sort of cover everything. We have done the conversion for passenger car size cars already. So the small street cleaning cars have already been converted. When it comes to the bigger ones, we're doing the scaling, the workshop cars, and the small machines that we use for pavements and cycling lanes, not only in the summer, but also in the winter when the streets are sometimes icy and the temperatures are frosty. And in all these vehicles, we are also scaling this up.
Die Batteriekapazitäten reichen ein.
The battery capacities are enough for the standard framework conditions. Now this brings me to the larger vehicles. We have also been working on that. So on the left-hand side, you can see the sweeping machine. This is a prototype, so we can only use that in one shift, not multiple shift. But with the battery capacity, this is sufficient for one shift operation. So you actually know with charging capacity is needed for a second shift. So that's great to have such a vehicle, because we will see huge CO2 emission reductions. So about 160 kW charging capacity will be possible as a peak. And also for the waste collection vehicles, we have already started with the replacement of vehicles, and we have seen that it's working quite well. However, there is some energy demand, or there are energy requirements that we need to fulfill. So we actually would need a higher battery capacity. It's already available in the marketing. It's coming, and we are testing it right now. And the next problem was also addressed by Mr. Brandau. 1 ton of lower payload. This is not something that we like. And that is why we are still using products by Envies and Ingenious. So over here you can see some pictures. And they are also on the road every day, and we make our experience with these vehicles. So we have 2 fuel cells for those vehicles, and we only have to go to the refueling station every 3 days. And we don't have to take a longer route for that. So we can actually use it in parallel. It's actually a pity that we have to wait for these vehicles for so long. So what are the alternatives? I already mentioned e-fuels. E-fuels will be a pillar in the future. They will prove themselves, but now they still have a low efficiency and you cannot really buy them. I don't really know where to buy them. So this is currently not an alternative. But in a few years' time, I think this will be an alternative. We don't know about the prices, but for special applications coming from the technology portfolio, there might be fitting offers. There will be a market for e-fuels. I believe that this is also in competition with aircraft and ships, the mobility on the roads. So I think we are less important in that market. But what about our smaller vehicles? We are running several tests also with larger vehicles, because those are the very interesting and exciting topics where we can save CO2 emissions by each vehicle. So there's a lot of potential to save emissions here. And I'm the fleet manager, and I am responsible for procurement, and I make the fleet available. Of course, the colleagues are using these vehicles, but we all pool our forces, and they support this process. And of course, we are changing the fleet, and we also need to raise awareness. For instance, there are fewer vibrations, you have less noise pollution, and people also become open to these new individual benefits. And this is a great development that we can also see that with our employees. What are the next steps? We've already finished the changeover of our waste collection vehicles. Of course, we need to make some readjustments, but this has already happened. The battery capacity is beyond the 200 kilowatt hours that we are testing right now. And we have also a savings potential of more than 30 tons per year in CO2 savings. This is what the vehicle looks like. We have a field test together with Daimler. And with this vehicle, we see that not just less energy is consumed, 160 kilowatt hours per day, but based on that, we don't need so much charging capacity, because one shift operation means that we have 8 hours in operation, and then we have enough time for recharging, 16 hours. So the question is, what do you do with the battery during those 16 hours? Bidirectional 16 hours. Bidirectional charging is not yet a topic here, but we are working on that, and we are certain that in the next few years we will achieve the next step. A lot is happening in the market. I could already replace those pictures. So we have some tipper vehicles, but from our colleagues in Munich, it's working really well, also over longer distances. So you can also do the recharging once a day. You also need to take a break, and you can just cover the entire shift. What are the goals also of the city of Hamburg? The city of Hamburg wants to become climate neutral by 2040. We at the Waste Management Service Hamburg decided that we want to be earlier, by 2035. It will cost a lot of money. However, this shouldn't stop us to do it. We believe that the technology is available, the framework conditions and the political willingness is available. The vehicles are not yet ready, but they're under development. So we actually expect that the problems of availability and stability will have been dealt with. The organizational and operating measures have been taken, so we have also changed the workshop equipment and increased the employee know-how. So what's next? We will continue procuring these products. We have already offered new vehicles for the next year, and we will assign them accordingly. We will test the different framework conditions, and we will scale up the system. So after having the right framework conditions, we will scale things up. I think we will have a focus on battery systems, especially for the smaller vehicles. There's no alternative, also not hydrogen. And as I said, we will also install a lot of charging infrastructure in parallel. And our conclusion is that politics is steering the development or leading the way, but we are also convinced of the development, and we already have the operation that runs efficiently, and we are also convinced that we can remove obstacles, and we are convinced that we can get the maximum out of the system for our employees and also for the benefit of the citizens of Hamburg.